Chapter 4964. Yi Qing Luo suppressed the shock in her heart. Where did they go? No matter if it was a coincidence or not. She had to chase after them to take a look. What if? Were they really her bunch of brothers? The tea house boss pointed to a place. I seem to have heard that they were going to look for someone or somewhere. Yi Qing Luo had an intuition. That bunch of people were probably her brothers in the world group. But she had to settle those two pairs of cousins from Dark Void Hall first before she could chase after the world group. The few of them were talking. Dark Void Hall. The people from Dark Void Hall are here. Suddenly those villagers who were crowding around abruptly turned around and went back into their own rooms. As though they were facing a great enemy, they all ran away. In a split second. The tea house, which was originally slightly crowded and bustling with noise. Instantly, there was only the tea house boss, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian trio. But in a blink of an eye, 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes swarmed up. The ones leading the group, who were being carried by the carriage, were those two cousins. Yo, young lady's guts aren't small, you actually didn't run. The leading lady, LV Ni's eyes were filled with viciousness as she looked at Yi Qing Luo venomously. Run. The leading man, Lu Sanzong, caressed his wound which had already been bandaged as he gave a chilly laugh. You're rather smart, knowing that you can't run, so just wait for your death here obediently. Those 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes had already swiftly surrounded the entire tea house. Lu Sanzong and LVNI walked down from the carriage. Their faces were filled with the complacency of capturing their prey, and the joy of venting the anger in their hearts. Young lady. Lu Sanzong's vision was glued onto Yi Qing Luo's face. The young lady's looks. As compared to those beauties whom he had seen before, she indeed wasn't considered as beautiful. But she had that pair of eyes. Like a fox. Just one look and he felt as though there was a whirlpool in those eyes, sucking him in. Especially when the young lady's charming smile was like a blossoming flower. He inexplicably felt that that face was very attractive. Lu Sanzong stared at the young lady, looking her up and down and feeling disgusted. Suddenly, he gave an evil smile. Young lady, what benefits do you get from following that gigolo? Why don't you follow me? As long as you follow me, I won't hold it against you for your rude behavior just now, and I'll let the people in this village go. As he spoke, he stroked the stubble on his chin with his fingers. There was a disgusting smile in his eyes. That piercing gaze, this made Dmo Xian's expression sunk. His eyes that were pure like sapphires were covered in frost at this moment, and they emitted killing intent. Chapter 4965. Ah Yun. The young lady's soft voice rang beside his ear. Her fair little hand gently rested on his arm, suppressing the man's irritable breath. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips casually raised. Don't be angry, this level. I can handle it myself. She walked gracefully, casually past the man and walked towards Lu Sanzong. Dressed in a pink dress, as if peach blossoms were in full bloom as she walked. It further complemented the young lady's delicate face, revealing a unique beauty of a young lady. Lu Sanzong's eyes were filled with evil. However, just as Yi Qing Luo was about to walk in front of him, the young lady suddenly made a turn. She was already standing in front of LVNI. LVNI was shocked by this sudden turn and took 2 steps back. By the time she regained her senses, her face turned black. Slut, what are you doing? How dare she scare her? She raised her hand and slapped the face that had offended her. You. The young lady's pink lips lightly spat out a word. LVNI only felt a cold flash in front of her eyes. A cold sensation pierced through his skin. Her brain had yet to react. Her body's instincts had already quickly evaded. After LVNI stood still, she saw, the girl in front of him had an evil smile on her face as she stood there. In her fair hand, there was a chilling machete glinting with a cold glint. Her posture was very casual. "How dare you covet my man, who gave you the guts?" The young lady's eyebrows were curved, as delicate as a flower. But the action of her hand was filled with a fierce aura. Swish, the machete cut through the air, directly chopping towards LVNI's face. There was no fancy action. Directly chopping where the vital point was. "Chopping you to death, how dare you covet my man?" After changing her appearance, she changed into a sock puppet. Naturally, it was impossible to take out her standard weapon. She couldn't use the glower flame fan. Then she would use the simplest and easiest to use, a big machete. Yiqing Luo's fierce action made Lu Sanzong's face turn extremely ugly. "Ah!" With a blood-curdling scream, LVNI covered her injured arm and leaped backward. She painfully turned her head to look at the dozens of black-clothed profound practitioners. Attack! Third Elder Jiang, Fourth Elder Jiang, save me. As soon as LVNI's voice fell, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that there were two bursts of murderous intent coming towards her from not too far away. Her expression froze, and she quickly retreated. Bang, bang, bang. A majestic aura exploded in the air. It was as if the air was going to be torn apart. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo had already returned to Dmo Xian's side. The invisible profound light exploded and destroyed everything in its surroundings. The entire tea house collapsed. The ground cracked open. From this, it could be seen exactly how powerful the explosion of the profound light was. However, amidst the explosion of the profound light, with Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as the center, it was as if a vacuum had been created. Fierce and tyrannical profound light filled the sky. They couldn't even get close to the two of them. Under the whirlwind of sand, Yiqing Luo saw two elderly dressed in Jiang family's aristocratic attire, standing in front of Lu Sanzong and LVNI. The profound qi on those two elderly were sharp, like a lurking poisonous snake, ready to explode at any time. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Lu Sanzong looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, his expression sinister. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms, her brows slightly raised as she looked at the elderly. "So it's the helpers invited from the Jiang family's aristocratic family, it's really so scary." Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4966. The Jiang family's aristocrats really didn't care about their reputation. They had completely handed over their family to the Palace of Darkness. So sure. Would the Palace of Darkness be the final winner? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved slightly as her lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. "Since young lady knows that this is the elder of the Jiang family, why don't you surrender obediently?" Lu Sanzong's confidence was different now that he had a backer. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, a strand of hair fell on her cheek, making her look even more charming. The young lady's red lips rose slightly. "The Jiang family is one of the top 5 aristocrats, and now they are actually helping you. I don't know where this wild chicken force came from." She clicked her tongue. "I didn't expect the Jiang family's aristocrats to be in such a state now." "You..." How could Lu Sanzong not hear the sarcasm in the young lady's words? His face sunk immediately as he gritted his teeth and sneered. "Young lady, the Dark Void Hall is not some unknown small force, now. You can ask anyone in the God realm, who doesn't know the prestige of the Dark Void Hall. The Dark Void Hall naturally has the ability to get the support of the Jiang family's aristocrats." "Ha!" the young lady carelessly snorted, her eyes were full of sarcasm. Prestige. I think it's infamy. She paused for a moment and laughed mockingly. The Jiang family's aristocrats are also thick-skinned to become the backing of such a force like yours, not afraid of getting into trouble. The young lady's words almost made Lu Sanzong die on the spot. The wound on his wrist started to hurt again. Young lady. The two Jiang family's aristocratic elders who had been silent and pretending to be otherworldly experts finally opened their mouths at this moment. Their eyes were cold and sharp as they stared at Yiqing Luo. At such a young age, it's better not to be too arrogant. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile, both of you are already so old, running over here to be arrogant with a young lady like me, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. The murderous intent in the elder's eyes intensified. Immediately, the two pounced towards them at the same time. Silly girl, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really don't know your limits. Bang! Thick profound energy burst forth from both of their bodies. The surrounding air instantly turned into a hurricane that surged violently. Yiqing Luo took a look at the surroundings, at the houses which the villagers lived in which had been overturned. The cracks on the ground were getting bigger and bigger. It was as if it would split open at any moment. It made people fall into the abyss. Fortunately, the villagers were not weak. They barely managed to avoid the pressure of the surrounding dark rays and hid far away. However, if this continued, with how merciless his opponent was, it was only a matter of time before the villagers were hurt. He had to avoid it. Yiqing Luo weighed the big machete in her hand as a wisp of dense light flashed past her delicate brows. She was just about to test the strength of those two Jiang family's elders. He had yet to move. Dmo Xian gripped her wrist tightly. Someone's coming. The man's deep voice rang in her ears. Humans. At this time, in such a remote place, could people still come? Yiqing Luo was just about to ask who it was. All of a sudden, the sounds of all kinds of profound lights colliding could be heard. Immediately, a few figures flashed past the horizon. A few dressed in black, armed with weapons, stood in front of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. Sure enough, it's you guys again. One of them said coldly, haven't you been taught a lesson enough? Chapter 49-67. Haven't you been beaten up enough yesterday? Now you still dare to find trouble with us. I knew it, this kind of sinister and cunning people. Yesterday they bowed and bowed to us like grandsons, today they will seek revenge on these villagers. Luckily we're here in time. A bunch of rubbish, still dare to come here to be arrogant. The young men and women chattered and cursed, instantly turning this dangerous and quiet atmosphere into a hubbub. It's you guys. When Lu Sanzong saw that group of people, his expression turned steely green. Lv's expression was also extremely ugly. Two losers, now you're looking for helpers to take revenge. We will beat you till you call for your father. Brothers, attack. After that, a group of people swarmed towards the Anshu Hall side. The minute they went up, Jiang family aristocratic elderly's expression congealed. A bunch of little dolls, dare to behave atrociously in front of us. The two of them had no chance to deal with Yiqing Luo now. On the contrary, they started to fight with this group of youngsters. Yiqing Luo. Now, wasn't it a good idea to stand here and watch the show? If she didn't help, it would seem as though she was letting down their enthusiastic help. This help. She indeed wanted to take a good look at what kind of training this group of perverts had gone through in the time she wasn't around, and how high were their profound grades now. Which was why they were able to come to God Realm, a place where the big shots were everywhere. They even became the messenger of justice, standing up for others. That's right. These youngsters in front of her were all dressed in black, and when they made a move, they could clearly see the cherry blossoms on their sleeves, as though they were burning in fire. The World Group uniform. These people. Weren't they the group of brothers from the World Group? Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't make a move. The brothers in the world group were extremely well coordinated. One gaze, one action. They understood the other party's thoughts. After discovering that the two elderly's abilities were extremely powerful, they speedily adjusted their formation. Then they entangled the two elderlies so much that they couldn't free themselves. Hence, under the elderly's eyelids, the few of them gave Lu Sanzong and Lvni a beating once again. The kind of beating without any reason at all. The chaotic battle lasted for about half an hour. The old man from the Jiang clan stopped and took Lu Sanzong and Lvni away from the scene. Only a bunch of profound practitioners from the Anshu Hall remained. He had become the captive of a group of young boys and girls. What bullshit Anshu Hall is this? So weak. You're running away. I haven't had enough yet. How boring is this really, the God realm? I feel like he's not even worth a single blow. While tying up the profound practitioners of the Anshu Hall, the young men and women were still bragging in all sorts of ways. It wasn't until they threw all the people into the collapsed tea house that they looked at the villagers who were hiding far away. It's okay, everyone has run away. Hey, kitty, where are you going? Suddenly, a voice interrupted the hubbub. Yiqing Luo saw a small soft dumpling pouncing into her arms. Sister. Just as the little man opened his mouth and spat out a word, he suddenly paused. Her ears, which were hidden in her hair, trembled slightly. Her glass-like eyes were filled with uncertainty as she looked at this extremely unfamiliar face. The young lady's dainty brows curved as her fair hands cupped the little man's face. Hi, where did this little cutie come from? You look so cute. Yiqing Luo hugged her into her arms. Chapter 4968. This is. She intentionally pinched the little boy's head, the ear which was hidden under the hair, and pretended to be surprised. Ear? Is this your ear? The little boy in her arms froze. A pair of watery glassy eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's face in a daze. Cat, what's the matter? A lady walked over. Looking at the little boy nestled in an unfamiliar young lady's arms, she sized up Yiqing Luo in astonishment. This young lady, you are. I'm Mu Yu. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved, as she replied with a smile, you are what the tea house boss mentioned. Young brothers. The young lady's eyes were filled with surprise. Indeed, as what the tea house boss said, you are really so young. She lowered her head to look at the little boy in her arms. You look like 12 or 13 years old, so young and already following the mercenary group to go on missions. You're really incredible. That tone totally seemed to be coaxing a child. Miss Mu. That lady opened her mouth. Just call me you, or. Calling me Madam Chow is also fine. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at the man beside her, smiling warmly. This is my husband, his name is Chow Yun. The lady looked at the both of them in shock. Both of you look so young, you're actually married. Shao Yi, if you want to get married, we can also get married immediately. A handsome-looking man walked over from the lady's back. That look was so handsome, as though it was a perfect work of art carved out by a divine knife. His every action and every word he spoke and laughed exuded the nobility and dignity of a person in a superior position. Xiao Jin. The lady stared at the man. Who wants to marry you? If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? The man's jade-like black eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly stretched out his hand and locked Yan Xiaoyi's waist, pulling her into his arms, then curled his lips towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Madam Chow, this is my wife Yan Xiaoyi. I'm this mercenary group's acting group leader, Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Why acting group leader? Because our real group leader is currently fighting for our mercenary group brothers. Xiao Jin's brows drooped slightly. However, it was only for an instant. His lips curled up into a smile. That's why I'm the acting commander for now. He waved his hand behind him and said, how did you provoke that bastard from the Anshu Hall? He even forced that bastard from the Dark Void Hall to specially invite two powerful old men over to help him. This time, we came back to act tough. Fortunately, we brothers are also very strong. Otherwise, we would have been screwed. As expected of his brother. She had learned the way she spoke and the words she used. Yiqing Luo held back the laughter in her heart as she used the most ordinary tone to reply, other than destroying that Grand Hall Master's hand and slashing his cousin, I didn't do anything too brutal. Qiao Jin, wasn't that cruel? Why do I feel that this girl is a little familiar? However, as she stared at that extremely unfamiliar face. It must be an illusion. Behind him, a few young boys and girls wearing mercenary uniforms walked over. He introduced them one by one. Yiqing Luo greeted the few of them and pretended not to know them, pretending to be genuine. After getting acquainted with the World Group's brothers once again, Yiqing Luo then shifted her vision towards the tea house boss and the villagers not too far away. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4969. She took out a bag of coins and passed it to the tea house boss. Take it as my apology to you. The tea house boss hesitated for a moment. On seeing that there were quite a number of villagers behind, he still accepted the coins. Find another place to stay, this place is no longer safe. Even if this place wasn't destroyed by Dark Void Hole. If they continued to stay here, they would probably be harassed by those siblings from Dark Void Hall daily. They were hindered by Dark Void Hall's power, so they didn't dare to resist. In the end, they couldn't escape from the word death. The tea house boss apparently thought of this point as well. In the end, the group of them dragged their families and left this piece of wasteland. Alright, now that the matter is settled, we can leave now. Yan Xiaoyi looked at those Dark Void Hall cultivators who were tied up on the ground. These people, let's just leave them here. If they can survive, then it means that they aren't fated to die. That's true. Yiqing Luo's pink lips suddenly curled up in ridicule as a crafty glint flashed past her eyes, but, just betting on their luck, isn't it too easy for them? No matter what, we have to increase the difficulty a little. Yiqing Luo's words were spoken. The world group's gazes all turned over in unison. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly, as delicate as a painting, as she walked towards those people. Tight and tight, she lifted her hand. In her fair little hand, there was a small exquisite white jade porcelain bottle. Those Dark Void Hall cultivators' faces turned pale as they stared at Yiqing Luo's hand, unable to guess what she was holding in her hand. Following that, everyone watched as that pink-dressed young lady held the porcelain bottle as she walked one round around Dark Void Hall's cultivators. In the porcelain bottle, a transparent liquid flowed out. But, it was colorless and tasteless. Dark Void Hall's cultivators' expressions turned ugly. What is this? What are you trying to do? This is a good thing and it's very expensive. Yiqing Luo poured out the liquid in the porcelain bottle as her lips curled up indifferently. I guarantee that it will leave a deep and indelible impression on you till the last moment of your lives. What is that? Yan Xiaoyi was curious as she couldn't help but leaned forward to ask. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes craftily. Just some wild beasts and magical beasts deep in the mountains like it more. Yan Xiaoyi widened her beautiful eyes in understanding. TSK. Brilliant, indeed brilliant. The wild beasts and magical beasts in the depths of the mountain had smelled the scent and came over, only to see a group of tightly tied up profound practitioners. What would happen? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. All right, we have to hurry and evacuate, otherwise we'll be implicated. The group of people immediately left the empty space. After a while, Everyone heard the roars of wild beasts coming from the wasteland. It was deafening, shaking heaven and earth. His roar caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. But then he saw, the girl in the pink dress smiled innocently, as if she had nothing to do with these wild beasts. His heart skipped a beat. Why do I feel like this girl's way of doing things so familiar? That's right, I heard from the tea house boss that you had already left that place yesterday. Why did you turn back today? Yi Qing Luo pretended to ask casually. Yan Xiaoyi thought for a while. On the way, I heard someone mention that an elder of some Jiang noble family had come here from afar. It was said that it was to support the people of Anshu Hole. I thought that something wasn't right, so I brought my brothers and turned back. Someone mentioned. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly. A bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 49-70. Not knowing if she was thinking too much. Somehow, she felt a little strange. How could it be? So coincidentally, the world group found out that Dark Void Hall had gotten help from the Jiang family's aristocrats. Although Yi Qing Luo was certain that her and Dmo Xian's disguise was flawless. She didn't just change her appearance. All the aura in her body was suppressed by Dmo Xian. Vast water divine relic or the spiritual beast's energy had not leaked out at all. At least, after getting along for so long, the brothers who had great rapport with each other were unable to recognize her at such a close distance. Over at Dark Void Palace. It shouldn't be possible to recognize her. And they specially used the brothers to test her. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her fingertips gently rubbed past her wrist, that piece of flawless white jade. This piece of jade was given to her by Bloodbone Barbaric King. If something happened to the counterfeit, it would be impossible. Or if it was recognized by Dark Void Palace. Bloodbone Barbaric King would inform her of the situation through this piece of jade. So, the counterfeit wasn't exposed. Dark Void Palace's people should have placed all their attention on the counterfeit. But, facing Dark Void Palace's sinister and cunning, they only knew how to hide in the dark like a rat. She couldn't help but feel a little worried. A warm and big palm held her little hand from behind. Warmth covered her. It also dispersed the uneasiness in her heart. The man's mellow voice entered her ears, revealing an irresistible magnetism. Don't panic. Currently, your performance is very good. Yi Qing Luo's breathing stilled as she nodded slightly. I know. If she was the one who messed up, then it would give Dark Void Palace a chance. No matter what, she had to stabilize herself first. That bunch of people from Dark Void Hall probably won't give up, so unless it's absolutely necessary, you'd better not return to this place. Yan Xiaoyi didn't know what complicated thoughts Yi Qing Luo was experiencing right now. She waved her hand at Yi Qing Luo. Madam Chao, we still have other matters to attend to. If we're fated, we'll meet again. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she nodded. All right, we'll meet again if we're fated. It was rare for her to reunite with the World Group's brothers. But she didn't ask them to stay, or voluntarily join their team. She was walking together with the World Group. It just so happened that it was her and Dmo Xian, a man and a woman. It would definitely attract the attention of the Dark Abyss Palace. It was better to split up. Just now, when the few of them were fighting against the Anshu Hall and the elders of the Jiang clan's noble clan, they were all fighting against each other. Yi Qing Luo had no choice but to admit. This group of young boys and girls who used to be immature had now grown to a point where even she was amazed. Even though their individual strength was nothing in the divine world, it was still not enough. But they are a team, they have chemistry. Therefore, their combined power was enough to take root in the God realm. The World Group and the others headed towards another path. After walking for a few steps, Yi Qing Luo slanted her head and stared at the little one in front of her, who had been looking at her without blinking, as she smiled slightly. Little cutie, what's the matter? Your friends are all gone. Kitty Lee's voice was soft as a pair of lively beautiful eyes stared intently at Yi Qing Luo. I'm not leaving. Could it be that little cutie is going to abandon your brothers and leave with me? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she rubbed her head. Kitty Lee shook her head and nodded her head. Her little face was serious as she stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking at all. Chapter 4971. Kitty. Yan Xiaoyi also sensed that someone was missing. She turned her head and saw Kitty Lee, standing eagerly in front of that peach-robed black-haired young lady. She hurriedly walked over and held on to Kitty Lee's little hand. Let's go. Don't. Kitty Lee shook her little head as she stretched out her hand to grab Yi Qing Luo's hand. We can go with this, sister. Kitty. Yan Xiaoyi's tone became heavier as her expression sunk slightly. We still have things to do. Madam Chow appearing in this kind of desolate wilderness, you must have something important to do, don't mess around. Kitty Lee's little ears trembled as her vivid glassy eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi tugged several times but wasn't able to make Kitty Lee loosen her grip. She was a little embarrassed as she smiled at Yi Qing Luo. Madam Chow, I'm so sorry, this sister of mine is not very obedient. No matter. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head as her palm gently caressed Kitty Lee's head. She's very cute, I like her very much too. Actually, she roughly knew why Kitty Lee would display such an expression towards her. Kitty Lee was her contracted beast. No matter how well her presence was suppressed. Between Kitty Lee and her, there was still some sense. But an unfamiliar face, coupled with an unfamiliar presence, there was totally no sense of connection between the beast and its master. Kitty Lee wasn't certain that she was Yi Qing Luo. But the beast's intuition subconsciously made Kitty Lee unwilling to leave her. Yan Xiaoyi smiled as she held on to Kitty Lee's wrist. Kitty Lee, listen to me. Kitty Lee's little hand held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly as her spirited beautiful eyes were filled with determination. I want to talk to you about her matters. When Yan Xiaoyi said the word her, she intentionally suppressed her voice and emphasized it. Kitty Lee's pupils contracted slightly. In the end, she let go of Yi Qing Luo and left with Yan Xiaoyi. The two of them didn't walk far. They were whispering something. From Yi Qing Luo's angle, she could see the shape of their lips. Yan Xiaoyi's expression congealed as she suppressed her voice. Mao Mao, now is not the time to fool around. It wasn't easy for us to come to God realm and our only motive is to find Qing Luo. Don't create unnecessary problems. Kitty feels that person is very familiar. Kitty Lee frowned. Kitty doesn't know why. Kitty just doesn't want that person to leave. Madam Chow and that young Master Chow, although they don't seem to be much of a threat. Yan Xiaoyi changed the topic, but, you must understand, those who dare to challenge the Anshu Hall, are they really as innocent and harmless as they appear on the surface? She looked at Kitty Lee, as her tone became even more solemn. Kitty, Qing Luo is in danger now, we cannot waste any more time here. Ghost Thief Master has already received news. Miss Feng took her fiancé and quietly went to find the Feng family's treasures. The Dark Palace has already sent people to follow them secretly, but Miss Feng doesn't know anything. Yan Xiaoyi's tone became even more solemn. Do you know what this represents? Kitty. Kitty Lee's eyelashes drooped slightly as she opened her mouth weakly. Kitty knows. Miss Feng was their Qing Luo. Now that Qing Luo's whereabouts had been exposed, the Dark Palace definitely wanted to make use of Qing Luo to find the Feng family's treasures. They had to stop Qing Luo before she found the Feng family's treasures. Chapter 4972. Since you know, then I won't say anything more. Yan Xiaoyi replied, don't drag innocent people into this. Yiqing Luo roughly understood the conversation between the both of them from the shape of their lips. A surge of warmth started to spread from her heart. Her pink lips unknowingly curled into an arc, her brows were dainty like the crescent moon. These brothers of hers. They really stepped into the God realm because of her. All the hard work, struggles, goals were all for her. To have such a group of brothers who wholeheartedly thought of her. It was her fortune. Madame Chow. Suddenly, a slender figure blocked her line of sight. The figure was short and the pink dumpling attire made that cute little face look even more adorable. But that pair of eyes which were like stagnant water had no waves as it stared straight at her. It really gave her a feeling of shock. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she tilted her head and pretended to be puzzled. You seem to be MOUing. The pink dumpling looked at her expressionlessly and didn't answer her question. Instead she asked coldly, "Why are you looking at them for?" The icy cold voice was stiff and emotionless. It was still that familiar shadow. She wondered what Xiao Yin that fellow was doing. So useless. Still unable to turn the shadow into a real little Lolita. Yiqing Luo ridiculed in her heart but didn't show it on her face as she smiled. They are pretty. Mo Ying's brows turned cold as she replied indifferently, "Don't look at what you shouldn't look at." Saying that, she turned around and walked away. Don't mind her, the shadow is not targeting you. Xiao Jin smiled at Yiqing Luo as he explained warmly. Following that, he took a look at Yan Xiaoyi and Kitty Li as his eyes revealed an ambiguous smile. When he turned to Yiqing Luo, it was a polite and warm smile. "Madam Chow, where are you planning to go? Is there anything we can help with?" Yiqing Luo could tell. Xiao Jin was suspecting her identity. Of course, it wasn't because he recognized her as Yiqing Luo. But he felt that she was related to the secluded palace. It was good to be vigilant. After all, the palace of gloomy darkness was so sinister. Yiqing Luo's long lashes drooped down slightly as she gave a faint sigh. "We intend to head over to the devil region, I heard that. There's a devil dragon in the devil region. Demon domain." Xiao Jin was startled. Demonic domain. It was an independent realm that transcended the boundaries of the God realm. It was said that it was like hell. Demons ran amok, and the slaughter was monstrous. No profound practitioner was willing to step into it. These two people actually wanted to go to the demon domain. And to search for the mystic dragon. One had to know that dragons were extremely rare. Other than their Qing Luo, that big pervert who had a dragon. Basically, they had not seen any other dragons until now. It was the same in the demon domain. Yiqing Luo's voice was rather low and her emotion seemed to have sunk by quite a bit. "My marriage with Yun, his father was extremely against it and later on in an accident. Because of Yun, he suffered a very serious injury and needed the demon dragon's blood to save him." This was the excuse that Yiqing Luo had long come up with. The imperial palace had made arrangements. She was also not afraid of investigations. Because their identities and everything else would become the truth. Xiao Jin went into a blank and immediately opened his mouth. "I'm sorry." "It's all right." Yiqing Luo smiled. "You should still have a mission, so Yun and I will not disturb you anymore. If we are fated to meet again next time, that would mean that there's really a lot of fate between us." Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love for everyone to collect." Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love for me." Chapter 4973. Her long and narrow eyes were like crescent moons as she smiled. "The next time we meet, I'll treat you all to a big meal, to express your life-saving grace today." Xiao Jin also smiled. "It's a promise." Yiqing Luo sent the group of brothers off with her eyes. The curvature of her lips, from the start till the end, was filled with gratification and warmth. The man hugged her waist from behind, as his voice was mellow. It's really surprising. He laughed softly. Once in Nirvana realm, they were called trash, but now they are able to stand on God realm's turf, and even cross hands with God realm's aristocratic elders, and they are not inferior at all. As their spiritual pillar, as their life mentor, how do you feel? The man's question made Yi Qing Luo's smile even more gentle. She turned around, as she buried her head into his chest. Really? Very touched. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth with a light smile. They finally became what they wanted to be. Their improvement, and they were able to stand on God realm. Everything had already exceeded her expectations. Although, right from the start, these devil-class students were not ordinary people. But, to be able to grow from that kind of situation to where they were now. Really. Very powerful. Yi Qing Luo was happy for them from the bottom of her heart. But, on the other side, she pursed her pink lips, as she heaved a heavy sigh. Now that they've come to God realm, I'm afraid that the people from Gloomy Palace will also notice them, and take the opportunity to create trouble. Gloomy Palace loved to play with people's emotions. The kind that loved to break up. Gloomy Palace would never understand the love of the most. As though, only by turning everyone into the same as Gloomy Palace. Only then could they pacify Gloomy Palace's sick mentality. Since they're here, then they must have made all the mental preparations. What you need to do now is to destroy Gloomy Palace's plans and shatter their hope. After that, become even stronger and complete. Your promise to me. Dmo Xian's mellow voice was like fine wine, low and hoarse. Like a warm hot spring, it could easily soothe all the worries in her heart. Promise. The promise to stand shoulder to shoulder, to enjoy the world together. Yi Qing Luo's dainty little face blushed slightly. Lifting her eyes, she gazed at the cute Shota Dmo Xian in front of her. She stretched out her hand and cupped his face, looking into his azure sapphire clear eyes. Amen, I know. Her eyes were tinged with a smile. Let's go, we have to hurry. I keep feeling that the world group's reason for returning is unclear. Don't worry, I'm here. Dmo Xian held her little hand. However, after setting off again, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian both met with trouble. Because, the Anshu Hall's influence could be found all over the God world. Maybe it was because Lu Sanzong and LVNI had been humiliated. Or perhaps the elders of the Jiang clan were humiliated. The Dark Void Hall immediately issued a kill order. Portraits of her and Dmo Xian were plastered all over the God realm. Resulting in Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian, even if they were to disguise themselves. His name had already spread far and wide in the firmament. Yi Qing Luo. She had already kept a low profile, but her ability didn't allow her to. What could she do? She was in despair too. Sob, sob, sob. Yi Qing Luo pulled Dmo Xian as she nestled at a corner of the city wall, picking up the kill order on the ground. On it, she could faintly see that the drawing was of her and Dmo Xian. It even indicated their names and symbols. Yi Qing Luo crumpled the paper into a ball. Why are they only chasing after the two of us? The ones who did this are the world group. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4974. Dmo Xian held her hand which was rubbing the paper earlier as he gently rubbed it, as he asked with a smile, don't tell me you wish for them to chase after the world group. Forget it. Yi Qing Luo pouted, let's just chase after the both of us. If she didn't enter hell, who would? Who asked her to be their big shot? Yi Qing Luo put on a bitter face as she leaned her head on Dmo Xian's shoulder. this time round, it's going to be tough on the both of us. Originally, in order to avoid people's eyes and ears, we were so careful when we left. Now it's even harder for us to move. It's hard to handle." The young lady turned her head around and around in the man's arms. Every single word sounded as though it was extremely difficult. But the young lady's tone didn't contain any trace of difficulty. "If you restrain the excitement in your tone, perhaps I might pretend to believe you." Dmo Xian pinched her nose as his thin lips slightly curled, which made him look even more peerless. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved like a crescent moon. She raised her head as she smiled at the man's indulgent gaze. "Do you feel that when you're with me, there will be endless troubles coming knocking on your door every day?" At this point, she paused for a moment. Her charming eyes opened like a blooming rose, peerlessly beautiful. But she changed the topic as her slender fingers propped her chin as her tone was arrogant and complacent. "This kind of days, really, won't be boring at all." She leaned closer to Dmo Xian's face as she suppressed her voice and gave a light smile. Mr. Husband, how's the taste of living a colorful life every day? It's good to have you." The man's beautiful thin lips opened slightly as his mellow and hoarse voice lingered in her heart like fine wine. "With you around, no matter if it's rain or shine, no matter if it's ordinary or not. As long as you're around, it's good enough." Yiqing Luo could hear the man's hidden words of love in his words. That delicate face was stained with a thin shade of red. Her eyes pouted coquettishly as her voice was soft as she muttered softly, "With you around, it's also very good." Luckily, no matter where she went, no matter where she was, no matter how many burdens she carried, her Xian only belonged to her. He had always been by her side and had never left. To have such a husband was already a winner in life. The girl's smile was filled with satisfaction and gentleness from the bottom of her heart. Between those pair of beautiful eyes, there was also a look of longing. She stared into the man's eyes. She could only see herself reflected in the man's ink-colored eyes. Her pink lips parted and she enunciated each word clearly. "When the Palace of Darkness plan is destroyed, we'll return to the Phoenix Manor, and let's get married." Dmo Xian's body suddenly stiffened. It was as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. The whirlpools in his obsidian-like eyes surged. He was agitated, but he deliberately restrained himself. One word came out of his mouth. However, his throat was dry and he couldn't say anything else. The smile on the girl's face deepened. She took a step back. Then, he slowly stretched out a hand towards him. Her lips curled up, and her smile bloomed like a blooming flower. "May I ask, young Master Dmo Xian, are you willing to marry me?" Dmo Xian's heart and brain, at this moment, the first time, was messed up. Boom, his mind was filled with a buzzing sound. He couldn't hear anything at all. In his eyes, there was only that peach blossom dress. Under the fluttering jet black hair, that blushing complexion became even more exquisite and beautiful. "Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love." "Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4975. Her pink lips curled into a smile. When he looked at her, his eyes seemed to be filled with a starry sky. Warmth wrapped around him. Dmo Xian's heart suddenly trembled. After a long while, the buzzing sound in his mind gradually stopped. His gaze was deep as he stared unblinkingly at the girl's delicate and charming face. He stretched out his hand and pulled her into his arms. "From the moment I met you, I have already decided that you are my only wife. In this life, even in the afterlife, I will marry no one else but you." The man's low and hoarse voice had his unique magnetism. like a feather, tickling her heartstrings. Yi Qing Luo. Ah. My blood is empty. She hugged Dmo Xian tightly, then it's decided. The man laughed lowly. His voice was pleasant and intoxicating. Old man Song's helpless and sighing voice came from Yi Qing Luo's mind. Sigh, a grown-up girl can't be kept at home. You're so passionate, those who don't know would think that you want to marry me so badly. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows suddenly rose, as if she thought of something, her pink lips curled up and became mischievous. Her long and narrow eyes curved slyly. When she raised her head, the smile on her face faded as she pretended to be serious. I'm the one who proposed, you're the one who married me. To be more precise, I should be the one who married you. Her smile was a bit mischievous as she stretched out her fair hand and hooked his chin. She deliberately raised her eyebrows. So, it's you who wants to marry me? Old man Song. Didn't changing the method mean that you don't hate to marry me? What was with the feeling of an old father who couldn't keep his daughter? Old man Song let out a sigh like an old father. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes, his pupils reflected the young girl's charming face. A young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. Her smile was brilliant, like a blooming rose. Her slightly narrowed charming eyes were overflowing with beauty. Just a glance at them would cause one's heart to flutter. His brows gradually softened, even the cold and stiff lines on his face seemed to soften. He slowly held the young girl's hand and raised it. Then he slightly bent down. His dark red lips were imprinted on the back of his hand. It was as if he had kissed his most precious treasure. All right. Marry or marry. As long as it's you, everything's fine. The tip of Yi Qing Luo's ears were stained with a thin layer of red. Her Xian was getting better and better at flirting. Every day, I'm overwhelmed with emotions from being teased by my own husband. What should I do? I'm waiting online. His goal was to take care of the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo expressed, he was pumped full of adrenaline. What kind of damned hunting order was this? She wasn't afraid anymore. Yi Qing Luo was valiant and high-spirited as she pulled Dmo Xian along as they started their journey towards the Devil region. He was not allowed to walk the right path. Couldn't she take the small path? The facts proved that. Indeed, it was impossible. Just as Yi Qing Luo pulled Dmo Xian, bypassing the city, walking on the wild mountain road. In the end, they still ran into each other. They were from the Anshu Hole. This might be the so-called enemies meet on a narrow road. Here's the thing. In the wilderness, there were all kinds of magical beasts crawling here and there. Generally speaking. With a big boss like Dmo Xian by her side. Once the imposing manner was released, the beast's intuition would make them take a detour. But unfortunately, as the two of them held hands, as though they were on an outing, shuttling through the wilderness. Thump thump thump, magical beast's footsteps approached. When they looked towards the direction of the sound, they saw a huge creature, thousands of densely packed tentacles. Centipede magical beast, opening its mouth full of sharp teeth, dripping with sticky saliva, pouncing towards them. Chapter 4976. This magical beast was already right in front of them and still wanted to eat them. Kill it decisively. Then, just as she was about to send the centipede's corpse flying with a kick. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, a dense rain of arrows rained down on them. Following that, a group of cultivators dressed in dark void hall's uniform rushed out. Who are you? How dare you? How dare you snatch our dark void hall's prey? That sudden rain of arrows made Yi Qing Luo dumbfounded. She was protected in Dmo Xian's arms and avoided those arrows. Yi Qing Luo then looked at them. It's you. Some cultivators from Dark Void Hall exclaimed in surprise after seeing Yi Qing Luo's face, the person on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. Immediately, more than 10 cultivators rushed out and surrounded Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. The two of you made our Dark Void Hall look for you. The leader sneered as he stared at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. So you were hiding in this wilderness. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she looked at the leader's complacent face, not quite understanding what he was so pleased about. Or did he feel, met her, that he could capture her and Dmo Xian back to the Dark Void Hall to claim the reward? TSK, young lad, you're still too young. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word as she pulled out her machete and rushed forward. Following that, the 10 over-cultivators from Dark Void Hall discovered, when they faced Yiqing Luo, they had no way to deal with her at all. What's more, the leader was struck by Yiqing Luo's strange movements and her totally unconventional slashing skills. He was directly injured. His wrists and chest were bleeding from the cuts. The cultivators from Dark Void Hall were stunned. This lady was strange. No wonder Big Master and Second Master were at a disadvantage in her hands. No wonder she was on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. The leader expressed that he couldn't beat her. So, his gaze fell on the centipede's corpse by Yiqing Luo's feet and said, "Our Dark Void Hall has always been open and aboveboard, we can't bully a weak lady like you. So, this is the prey of our Anshu Hall. Return the prey to us and we will let you live." Yiqing Luo. What the heck? This was the first time she had seen someone more shameless than her. Honest and upright. More than a dozen people bullying her, and she couldn't handle it. Which son of a bitch was fighting with her just now? He really had the cheek to say that. As expected of the shameless Anshu Hall. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she laughed. She lifted her leg and kicked the centipede demonic beast. Her long and narrow eyes were frivolous as she asked with a casual smile, "You want this thing? This is the prey we are hunting." Dark Void Hall's team leader stared at Yiqing Luo with a face full of vigilance. "Hand over our prey and we'll spare your life." Chapter 4977. They must have forgotten. If the other party cared about the Anshu Hall, how could he possibly be on the wanted list of the Anshu Hall? You! The leader of the Anshu Hall was enraged. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. This centipede demonic beast was precisely the one they had searched for with great difficulty. It was an essential medicinal ingredient to treat the Great Master. There were quite a few centipede demonic beasts. However, this extremely powerful high-grade centipede demonic beast was extremely powerful. That was very rare. It could be said, they were lucky to have encountered such a beast. They had put in a lot of effort, and many of their companions had died. Only then did he manage to subdue the centipede. However, due to a moment of carelessness, the centipede demonic beast managed to escape. They chased after her. He saw the centipede demonic beast being stepped on by a young girl. It would have been fine if the girl had left the centipede demon beast's corpse as a medicinal ingredient. At least they could think of a way to snatch it. But the other party had directly blown up the centipede demonic beast's corpse, leaving nothing behind. This was obviously done on purpose. The enemy was targeting the Anshu Hall. The Dark Void Hall's cultivators had already filled in 10,000 words in their minds, regarding Yiqing Luo and the Dark Void Hall's love and hatred. Hence, on the second day of the kill order. On the second day of the city's turmoil. Swish, a flare shot into the sky, announcing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's current location. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the signal flare exploding in the sky. They are looking for help. Heh, scared now. The captain of the Dark Void Hall had a cold look in his eyes. You're already on the wanted list of the Dark Void Hall, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Just wait for your death. Yiqing Luo. This young lad's brain wasn't too good, right? She was not stupid. She was not interested in wasting her time here. In any case, he knew that he had inadvertently ruined the opportunity for the leader of the Anshu Hall, Lu Sanzong, to treat his wounds. That was enough. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian along as she turned around and ran. He ran away without any hesitation. It was so fast that the leader of the Dark Void Division did not even have time to react. The two people in front of him had already disappeared. Of course, even if he managed to react, he might not be able to stop it. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian and turned into another part of the dense forest. He could also vaguely hear the angry roars of the Dark Void Division's captain. These people from the Anshu Hall were truly interesting. When she was here, he was as timid as a grandson. She's not here at all. This aura, this explosive roar, it was simply imposing. Yiqing Luo was still thinking if she should turn back to scare them. This thought had just flashed across his mind. Suddenly, the man beside her put his arm around her waist and looked at the other end of the jungle. Who is it? Someone. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she followed Dmo Xian's line of sight. In the dense mountain forest, the weeds could be faintly seen swaying in the lush grass. That was not the sway of the wind. Instead, it followed the breathing of a person and swayed gently. Someone was hiding there. She couldn't even sense his aura. Someone from the Anshu Hall. There was no response from the bushes. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered slightly and the dark rays spread out silently, brushing past the grass. A series of painful screams could be heard from inside. That cry was very immature. It was a child's voice. Dmo Xian also heard the child's voice and his aura calmed down. The two of them saw a young boy around 8 or 9 years old, bound by an invisible profound ray and brought right in front of Yiqing Luo. The young boy was in a sorry state and his clothes were tattered. But that pair of eyes was unexpectedly clear. Chapter 4978. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed Dmo Xian's arm. The little boy fell onto the ground. That pair of bright eyes stared at the both of them without blinking. Gradually, his eyes turned red. The little boy suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the both of them. I beg you. I beg you to save me, save my brother. Yiqing Luo. What situation was this? Looking at that little boy, crying into a bowl. Yiqing Luo inexplicably thought of Feng Shi. She sighed softly, although she was soft-hearted, but she wasn't so silly to let down her guard against this little boy. She waved her sleeves and a profound ray swept past, lifting the little boy up from the ground. The little boy's dirty little face was full of tear stains. That pair of clear eyes was filled with a pleading look of facing death calmly. Facing death calmly. What the hell? She didn't do anything to him. Why did he look as though he was facing death calmly? Did he treat her as a dreadful beast? Then what was the point of asking for help? You dare to go against the Dark Void Hall, you must not be afraid of the power of the Dark Void Hall, right? The little boy's voice trembled and after being stared at by Yiqing Luo, even his body was trembling. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and touched her own face. Under the boy's hopeful and faintly fearful gaze, she narrowed her eyes slightly and asked instead of answering, Do I look very scary? No matter how one looked at her, her face was very charming and adorable, very pure and innocent. Anyone who saw her would have a good impression of her. Why was this little boy so afraid of her? Angry, happy. The little boy was stunned by this question. He hurriedly shook his head. No, not scary, good looking. Since it's good looking, what are you afraid of? Yiqing Luo retracted her hand in satisfaction. That's right, even if it was a disguised face. That was also good looking. The little boy was stunned for a moment before he reacted and said with a trembling voice, I'm afraid. Afraid that you won't help me. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose again. You haven't said clearly what do you want me to help, how do you know that I won't help? The little boy was slightly dazed by Yi Qing Luo's question. It took a long time for him to come around. It was Dmo Xian who stretched out his hand and held onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulder as his voice was mellow and gentle. This child should have seen you dealing with those people from Dark Void Hall, so. She wants to seek your help to deal with Dark Void Hall, right? Yi Qing Luo looked at the man beside her with interest. When did you become so enthusiastic? He had always been a person who wouldn't care if things didn't involve her. At this moment, he actually took the initiative to speak. The man's eyebrows and eyes were like a painting, showing off his magnificence and elegance. His dark red lips curled up into an indecipherable smile. He lowered his gaze and leaned over. His deep and husky voice carried the unique magnetism of a man, because I thought of our future children. Yi Qing Luo. Wasn't she thinking a little too far ahead? She pinched Dmo Xian. Then, she turned her gaze to the little boy. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with? Dark Void Hole. I want you to help me deal with Dark Void Hole. The little boy's voice was no longer trembling. He clenched his fists tightly as his eyes were filled with hatred. No one dares to go against Dark Void Hall, and no one dares to say no to Dark Void Hall. But, sister, you dare. As he said that, he wanted to kneel down again. Sister, I beg you, save me, save my brother. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please hit me. Chapter 4979. Yi Qing Luo's sleeves fluttered. Don't be in a hurry to kneel. If you don't explain clearly, how can I help you? This child, what's wrong with him to like to kneel down for no reason? What did the Dark Void Hall do to you? Why do you hate them? And who is your brother? What did they do to him? Yi Qing Luo straightened out the young boy's train of thought. With Yi Qing Luo's question, the young boy sobbed softly as he answered Yi Qing Luo's question. The young boy's name was Jiang Ziyi. He lived in a nearby city, an ordinary family in the most secluded abandoned land. It was such an ordinary family that could be called a slum. Would be involved with the Dark Void Hole. The turning point happened on a certain day, at a certain moment. A good-looking woman brought along a seriously injured, equally good-looking man, to hide in their abandoned courtyard. The young boy's parents were honest and kind-hearted. Seeing someone so seriously injured, they left him behind and went into the mountains to pick herbs to treat the man's injury. Unfortunately, it was this rescue which led to the young boy's family being destroyed. The Dark Void Hall chased after them. Without any explanation, blood splattered across the entire slum. The Dark Void Hall's motive was to capture that man and woman. When the Dark Void Hall arrived, the parents stuffed the boy, the man, and the woman into the basement to avoid a massacre. Yi Qing Luo listened to the young boy's furious tone, holding back his tears as he spoke of the hatred between him and the Dark Void Hole. Then he raised his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo firmly. Sister, you're not afraid of the Dark Void Hall. I can only seek help from you. As long as you help me take revenge, I will sell myself to you. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes scarlet red. As long as I can take revenge, I am willing to pay any price. Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly. You don't need to sell yourself to me. Although he was a 10-year-old boy. But he was after all a boy. Sell to her. A big vinegar jar. This vinegar jar could not be covered anymore. From the little boy's eyes, which were filled with anger and were flushed red, Yi Qing Luo was certain that he wasn't lying. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and asked, "In this case, the brother you mentioned who wanted me to save, is the man who hid in your house?" Jiang Zi nodded. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she bent over slightly, looking down at him condescendingly. A wisp of cold light rippled out from her pair of long and narrow eyes. Her pink lips curled up as she enunciated clearly, "In conclusion, the tragedy that befell your family was all because you saved that brother. Not only did you not receive any rewards for your good deeds, you even caused your family to be ruined. Don't you hate him?" After finishing this sentence, Yiqing Luo straightened her body as her smile was filled with ridicule. "Why are you still thinking of saving him for? He's the real culprit who killed your parents, isn't he?" The girl's voice was cold and clear. His tone was calm and cold. He was obviously smiling. She even smiled as brightly as a flower. But the words that came out of his mouth were exceptionally sharp. Jiang Zi's eyes widened bit by bit as he listened. She clenched her fists even tighter. Her dirty, tear-stained face was now filled with anger. Big Brother isn't the main culprit. Big Brother is also a victim. Everything is because of the Anshu Hall's ruthlessness and cruelty. End of this chapter. Waste 7th. Young Miss, Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4980. The little man bit his pale lips. Brother didn't want to stay in the beginning, he was afraid of dragging us down. "It's me, I like Brother, I'm the one who asked Father and Mother to let Brother stay." He lowered his head as tears filled his eyes once again. "Father and Mother have never regretted saving Brother, otherwise they wouldn't have pushed Brother and Sister into the basement with me. Brother's life was exchanged with Father and Mother's lives." He sniffled and suddenly raised his head, glaring at Yiqing Luo. "I'm not as bad as you, blaming everything on Brother." But the moment he raised his head, what he met was the young lady's frivolous pink lips, a satisfied smile. The young lady with black hair and peach blossom clothes slowly walked towards Jiang Ziyi. Slightly bent over, her fair fingers, under Jiang Ziyi's wide-opened eyes, slowly moved to his head. Fiercely, it bounced once. Jiang Ziyi regained his senses, hugged his head, crying out in pain. "Over at the dark void hall, they always create trouble for me, it's still not a small problem." Yiqing Luo looked at Jiang Ziyi with a smile. "Anyway, I'm going to destroy the entire dark void hall, so I'll help you take revenge." Jiang Ziyi was still hugging his head. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he couldn't react. After some time, his eyes suddenly widened, looking at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. You agreed." "And?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled. "After all, I'm a good person." Jiang Ziyi. Although he didn't feel that she was a good person, but he couldn't say it out. "Where is that brother of yours? Is he about to die or what? Bring me to take a look, perhaps he can still be saved." Yiqing Luo said. Jiang Ziyi's eyes sunk, he lowered his brows, his little hands clenched tightly. "Brother. He was taken away by the dark void hole." Yiqing Luo. "Didn't he hide in the basement to escape? Why was he taken away? Did she still have to go to the dark void hall to save him? Was it too late to back out now?" Jiang Ziyi opened his mouth weakly. The dark void hall searched the slums, but couldn't find Brother and Sister, but later on, they came again. The man was already heavily injured and had no strength to resist. In order to protect him, the older sister could only watch helplessly as the people from the Anshu Hall took her brother away. "Bring us to your house first." Yiqing Luo sighed softly. At the very least, he had to meet that woman and find out what kind of enmity she had with the Anshu Hall. Only then could he set out to save them. It was no wonder that the slums were called the slums. Especially after being massacred by the Anshu Hall. It was already so dilapidated and desolate that it didn't seem like a place suitable for living, making it even more desolate. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian as she followed behind Jiang Ziyi, turning here and there. It took a lot of twists and turns. Finally, it stopped in a cave that couldn't be called a house. Jiang Zi ran into the cave and shouted at the top of his lungs, Sister Qing, I found a helper. I found a helper who can help us save brother. The little girl's voice was full of excitement. However, after rushing into the underground cave, when he saw the girl who was ready to set off and was sheathing her sword, his excited expression froze. Big Sister Qing, where are you going? End of this chapter. Trash 7th Young Miss, Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4981. The lady's exquisite face had a cold expression. A pair of icy cold eyes glanced at Jiang Ziyi as she said coldly, I'll go save him. There are many people in the dark void hall and they are all very powerful. I heard that they had invited the Jiang family's aristocratic elders over to help. Jiang Ziyi anxiously advised, Sister Qing, you can't go save him alone. Don't tell me I have to bring you along. The lady's voice was flat. Our arrival has already caused you enough harm, we don't need you anymore. She walked past Jiang Ziyi and walked straight out. Jiang Ziyi immediately held the lady's hand, Sister Qing. The lady didn't turn back. Under her cold and elegant face, there was a slight change in her expression. But it was fleeting. She opened her mouth, if I can come back alive, I will definitely repay your family's kindness. Saying that, she struggled free from Jiang Ziyi and walked out of the cave without any hesitation. Who's there? Outside the cave, light shone down. It reflected two long slender figures at the entrance of the cave. The lady's eyes were vigilant, her hand holding the long sword as her murderous intent was apparent. Close. A man and a lady standing at the entrance of the cave entered the lady's sight. The young lady was dressed in a peach-pink dress, looking delicate and lovely. The man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe, looking delicate and adorable, but his aura was mature and steady. When he came into contact with that pair of sapphire blue eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine. The woman couldn't help but be startled. You guys. You must be the Sister Qing that Ziyi mentioned. The young lady spoke first, revealing a charming smile. I'm the helper that Ziyi found to help you save him. My name is Mu Yu. This is my husband, Chao Yun. She took 2 steps back, revealing the cave entrance, allowing the lady to come out. The lady's eyes were filled with vigilance, sizing up the young lady. It was until Jiang Ziyi ran out of the cave, that Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's identities were confirmed. The lady's expression was cold, her eyes were cold and distant. I don't need anyone's help. Sister Qing. Jiang Ziyi grabbed the lady's hand. This sister is very powerful, she can easily make those people from the dark void hall in the palm of her hand. The lady glanced at Yiqing Luo indifferently, looking at the young lady's innocent look, her expression turned colder. I don't need your help. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms over her chest, with a slight smile on her face, she casually said, As for me, I'm the one who issued the kill order from the Dark Void Hall, so I'm in an irreconcilable situation with the Dark Void Hall. Even if I'm not helping you, I'm going to exterminate the Dark Void Hall. So, you don't have to worry about implicating me, because I'm already a part of this. The woman's lips moved, but no words came out. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose. Miss also wants to save your friend, right? One more person, one more portion of strength. It's better than to charge into the Dark Void Hall alone and then die together with your friend in the Dark Void Hall, isn't that right? Jiang Zi. Somehow, he felt that this analogy was a bit weird. The cold woman fell silent for several breaths of time. After some time, she slowly cupped her hands towards Yiqing Luo. Her voice was slightly cold, but her tone was especially solemn. My name is Tong Ziqing, thank you for joining us. Yiqing Luo smiled, her eyes were as delicate as a painting. no need to apologize, we're in a relationship of helping each other. Ziqing, long time no see. She didn't expect to meet her here. Then, the one who was being pursued by the dark void hole. The one who needed her to save him. The brother that Jiang Ziyi mentioned. It should be him. Yes, who pinched him? The answer to the riddle can only be revealed if the tickets are left. End of this chapter. Trash 7th. Young Miss, Overlord, be gentle with your love. Chapter 4982. Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing had always been with Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing would be here. And she planned to save someone alone. That person must be Long Yunzhan. But what made Yiqing Luo felt strange was Long Yunzhan was someone whom the Dark Palace had arranged to be in the devil class. Which was the person who was arranged to be by her side. Which was also someone from the Dark Palace. The Dark Void Hall was the Dark Palace, using the Jiang family's aristocrats to create trouble. According to this logic, Long Yunzhan was considered to be in cahoots with the Dark Void Hole. Why did the people from the Dark Void Hall want to kill Long Yunzhan? She was filled with doubts. But at this moment, the person who was carrying the Yimu Qing Luo little vest could not lose her character and could not fall off the horse. So she could only pretend to be casual as she casually asked, "Who are you trying to save? Why are you being chased by the people from the Dark Void Hole?" To the extent that they even massacred the entire slums. How big of an enmity did they have? Tong Ziqing's cold brows sunk slightly. She lowered her eyes and didn't say a word, with no intention to answer Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't continue asking as she changed the topic. "Do you know where the people from the Dark Void Hall have captured your friend?" Tong Ziqing's hand, which was holding the weapon, tightened slightly as a cold glint flashed past her eyes. She pursed her slightly pale lips as she spoke in a chilly tone. "I know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is." "All right, then you lead the way." Yiqing Luo nodded her head, without much emotion. Such a straightforward reply, which made Tong Ziqing stunned. She raised her pair of cold, beautiful eyes as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. "Aren't you curious as to how I know? If you want to tell me, you will naturally tell me." Yiqing Luo's long and slender eyes curved like the moon. "If you don't want to say, even if I ask you, you won't say, so why bother?" She curled her lips slightly. "Dealing with the Dark Void Hall is not just to help you save someone. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If you know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is, there are only advantages and no disadvantages for me. Why should I care? How did you know where the Anshu Hall's headquarters is?" The girl's tone was very indifferent, and there was not much emotion in her voice. A few simple sentences. It made Tong Ziqing's heart tighten for no reason. Her long and beautiful eyelashes fluttered twice like butterfly wings. When he looked at Yiqing Luo, there were some hidden emotions in the depths of his eyes. Then, are we going now?" Jiang Zi did not notice the surging emotions between the two adults. He clenched his fists tightly, and his young face was filled with hatred. "I must kill the people of Anshu Hall to avenge my parents and the people around me." Yiqing Luo originally didn't intend to bring Jiang Ziyi along. However, when she saw the burning rage in the boy's clear eyes, which seemed to be able to incinerate everything in the surroundings, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. She silently called out to him, "Follow him closely, don't leave him by even half a step, do you understand?" Yiqing Luo pointed at the man beside her, and then looked at Jiang Ziyi solemnly. "If there's a chance, I'll let you personally take revenge, but if the timing isn't right, you're not allowed to forcefully take revenge, understand?" The boy pursed his lips tightly, as he nodded his little head hard. He took small steps as he inched towards Dmo Xian's side. I will definitely follow brother closely. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Everyone please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. The updates are the fastest. Chapter 4983. The little person's expression of facing death with equanimity made people unable to restrain their laughter. Yiqing Luo's slender finger poked his glabella. Don't worry, with us around, we won't send you to your death. Even if you don't personally take revenge, you will definitely be able to do so. Jiang Zi blinked his eyes and raised his hand to touch the spot on his forehead that had been poked. Those delicate and fair fingers felt very soft to the touch. He didn't know if it was an illusion, this young girl who looked delicate and charming, but her words and actions were cold and indifferent, making it hard for people to understand her. He seemed to have become gentle. When she looked at him, her gaze became much gentler. What was going on? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and stuffed it into the man's broad palm. She leaned forward and said with a sweet smile, "Ah Yun, I'll have to trouble you to look after this little one." The man did not answer. However, the emotions in his eyes darkened a little. Yiqing Luo's empty hand stretched out to Dmo Xian's face and pinched it as she smiled. "All right, I will also keep following you and guarantee that I will be within your line of sight, obediently letting you protect me." The girl's soft voice, under the deliberate coquettishness, carried her unique softness. A trace of helpless affection flashed across the man's eyes that were as deep as obsidian. He raised his hand and rubbed the girl's head, his eyes filled with helplessness. Jiang Zi did not understand. But how would Dmo Xian not know what she was thinking? Why would the young girl suddenly be so concerned? Apart from Jiang Zi, this little boy's temperament was very much to the girl's liking. However, it wasn't to the extent where the girl's kind heart would explode. But because she told him about the Anshu Hall's massacre of the slums and the destruction of Jiang Zi's family, piled on her own body. Because this matter was related to her brother. The young girl had always cared about the friendship between brothers. In order to save Long Yunjian, Jiang Zi suffered a bloodbath. Thus, the girl shouldered this hatred on herself. This was his little Luo heir. The headquarters of the Anshu Hall was located about 2 cities away from the slums. It was located in the middle of the border between the main city of the God Realm and the God Realm. The 3 of them, along with the child, hurried on their way. It also took an entire afternoon. By the time they arrived at the city, the sky was already dark. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were still on the wanted list. Unable to reveal himself, he could only observe from the dark. Tong Ziqing changed her clothes and made some slight adjustments. She looked like a different person. Jiang Zi, on the other hand, cleaned himself up, changed into a clean set of clothes, and tied himself up with a young master's cloak. It was as if he had been reborn. It was likely that even the profound practitioners of Dark Void Hall who had seen Jiang Zi before would not be able to recognize him now that they were face to face. The 2 of them entered the city and found a relatively lively restaurant to rest. The restaurant was the place where news spread the fastest. Tong Ziqing brought Jiang Zi to eat on the first floor. He could hear the people around him discussing in low voices about the Anshu Hall. The bounty issued by the Anshu Hall had caused a huge uproar. Even the elders of the Jiang clan had rushed over. Everyone was guessing the identity of the man and woman on the bounty, and how they had offended the Anshu Hall. "I heard, it's because the woman on the bounty list had injured the deputy head of the Anshu Hall. First had wanted to avenge his cousin, so he made such a big fuss. Just because of an injury, they made the entire city cooperate with the Anshu Hall's investigation. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4984. Now that the dark void hall is the dominant force, what can we ordinary people do? Sigh. That dark void hall's vice leader is not a good person. If someone is willing to teach the dark void hall a lesson, it would be good for the people. Sure. You're courting death. If the dark void hall heard this, you won't be able to see tomorrow's sun. The crowd discussed in low voices. Most of them were waiting to see a good show. Everyone here was extremely powerful, and if they were to really fight head-on, they might not necessarily lose to a profound practitioner. Now a wild chicken force came out of nowhere, backed by the Jiang family's aristocrats, and wantonly swaggered in the god realm. This had already made everyone dissatisfied. If not for the worry that the other party's methods were too insidious, harming their loved ones or siblings, they would have rebelled long ago. Of course. The bigger reason was humans' bad nature. No matter how high one's strength was. Anyway, it had nothing to do with them, let it go. Before it really hurt their interests. Most people avoided it if they could. At most, it would be like this now. A few words of ridicule. Then, they still let the dark void hall's power grow day by day. In Yiqing Luo's eyes, she felt that this group of people in the god realm had completely lived in comfort for too long. High and mighty, the god realm that no one dared to blaspheme. They had lost their sense of crisis. Just like the important members of the aristocrats, one after another died on the streets, the cause of death unknown. Until more than half of them died. Then the god realm had some reaction. But there was still no vigilance. But now, the dark void hall's power came out of nowhere, like a weed rising rapidly. The people in the god realm still avoided it if they could. Comfortable for a long time, confident for a long time. Actually, it was not a good thing. This group of people in the god realm, sooner or later, they would regret it. Tong Ziqing brought Jiang Ziyi. After listening to some gossip, they got up and returned to the room. The moment they entered the room, she saw Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian sitting at the tea table, discussing something. Tong Ziqing said indifferently, entering the city, not worried of being discovered. Originally, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were arranged to wait outside the city, waiting for the night to meet and then sneak into the dark void hall headquarters. He did not expect the two of them to enter the city at this time. Yiqing Luo's little hand played with the man's slender jade-like fingers, her lips curled into a faint smile. With Yun around, you won't be able to find out. Tong Ziqing stared deeply at the handsome man, her slightly cold eyes faintly showing some doubt. Why do I feel like the way this young couple interacted with each other was very familiar? He seemed to have seen it somewhere before. But at the moment, he couldn't remember. Yiqing Luo saw Tong Ziqing staring at her and lifted her eyes slightly as she asked with a smile in her eyes, "What's the matter?" "Nothing much." Tong Ziqing averted her gaze, her cold face revealing a bit of dejection. "It's just that when I see young Master Chao's eyes, I can't help but think of that friend who was taken away by the Anshu hole." Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the man's pure and harmless eyes, which were like a gem. His powerful aura couldn't hide the innocence and cuteness of his face and eyes. His eyes were as blue as the sea. He was indeed somewhat similar to Long Yunjian. Yiqing Luo pretended not to know as she laughed lightly. Yun's eyes are indeed different from ordinary people, but, because it's him, I like it. Tong Ziqing seemed to have thought of something because of Yiqing Luo's words. That cold eyes revealed a bit of gentleness. Trash seventh young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash seventh young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. That day Yiqing Luo followed Tong Ziqing all the way into the inner region. The deeper they went, One could clearly feel the evil energy of the dark nether palace spreading throughout the headquarters. This kind of cold and gloomy aura made her extremely displeased. Along the way, they avoided countless search parties. They entered the depths of the Anshu hole. Tong Zicheng looked around and said in a low voice, "I don't know where he's imprisoned. I'll go to the dungeon to look for it first. You guys wait for me here. Let's split up and search, if there's any news." Yiqing Luo nodded and pondered for a moment. "Once we find him, we'll save him first." Tong Zicheng pursed her lips, not knowing what she was thinking about. After a moment of silence, she took out a palm-sized wooden token from her sleeve and passed it to Yiqing Luo. "Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4986. This is the World Mercenary Group's token. If you find anyone, you can communicate through the token. The mercenary group's token could be used for communication within a short distance. Yiqing Luo received the token as her gaze congealed on the token, the two words, "the world." A warm feeling arose from the bottom of her heart. She had already. He hadn't touched her token. Her fingertips gently caressed the outline of the two words as her pink lips curled, "the world." "So, you're also from the World Mercenary Group. You know about the World Mercenary Group?" Tong Zicheng was stunned as she was puzzled. Why would someone from God Realm know about the lower realms mercenary group? "I met them not long ago and my life was saved by them." Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. "Looks like we're really fated." Tong Zicheng took a deep look at Yiqing Luo. Immediately, she turned around and disappeared into the darkness. Yiqing Luo kept the token and hooked the man's arm. "As for us, before we find anyone, let's go do something meaningful." The young lady arched her eyebrows craftily as she winked at the man. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and naughty smiles. Just one eye contact. The man had already seen through the young lady's thoughts. His eyes were filled with adoration as his lips curled helplessly. Following that, he held on to the young lady's slender waist. After that, one hand was holding on to the young lady while the right leg was dragging the tiny one. Just like that, they silently shuttled through Dark Void Hall's headquarters. No one noticed. All the way until they reached a backyard. The air was filled with the fragrance of food. "Sister, what are we doing in the kitchen?" Jiang Ziyi's eyes stared straight as he swallowed his saliva while asking. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she asked, "Do you want to do something bad?" Jiang Ziyi stared straight into the kitchen. "Steal food to eat?" "Nope." Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved and a white jade bottle appeared in her palm. "Do you want to steal food or do you want to take revenge?" The tiny man's eyes congealed. "Revenge." He swiftly turned his gaze towards Yiqing Luo as his eyes no longer drooled over the food. Yiqing Luo stuffed the white jade bottle into his hand as she pointed to the front. "See that well over there? Pour the contents in the bottle into it." Jiang Ziyi didn't hesitate at all. With the small jade bottle in hand, he walked straight to the well. It was the middle of the night. There was no one else in the kitchen except for a few kitchen maids. Jiang Ziyi's operation was very smooth. After pouring out the contents of the medicine bottle, he carefully returned to Yiqing Luo's side and returned the bottle to her. "Sister, what's that?" "Something that can allow you to take revenge." Yiqing Luo smiled as she pinched his face. "Now, let's go and save them." "You bunch of trash." The sound of something being smashed came from a courtyard. In the quiet night, it was extremely loud. "I can't even find a single person. What's the use of keeping a bunch of trash like you? If you still can't find him tomorrow, you don't have to come see me again." At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the other two were in the dark, staring at the movements in the room. The enraged Lu Sanzong was sitting at the head of the bed. The floor around his feet was messy, and it seemed like he had dropped a lot of things. His right hand hung by the side of the bed, still wrapped in a thick bandage. The other hand was clenched into a fist, unable to contain his anger. In front of Lu Sanzong, a bunch of Dark Void Hall's cultivators knelt on the ground with their heads lowered, not daring to say a word. "Cousin." A lady's weak voice was heard from the side. LVNI was supported by the maid as she walked in. "There's news from that side. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4987. What news? When Lu Sanzong saw the person who came, the anger on his face retracted slightly. LVNI looked at the mess in the room and frowned slightly. When she sat by Lu Sanzong's bedside, she then instructed, "Tidy up the things." A group of Dark Void Hall practitioners looked at each other in dismay. Until LVNI's maid started to clean up the mess on the floor. Then she immediately went forward to help. "There's news from the Jiang family's side." LVNI raised her eyes and looked at Lu Sanzong. "The person they're looking for has been found. Feng family's young miss." "Found?" Lu Sanzong instantly sat up straight. "Who found her? Where did they find her?" "It's from second head." LVNI's expression was slightly ugly. Family head Jiang is very happy and rewarded second head with quite a number of good things. That ingrate. Lu Sanzong was so angry that he punched the bed, causing the wound on his right wrist to hurt again. His face was pale as he bared his teeth in anger. "We actually let them beat us to it. Do you know how second head found that person?" LVNI glanced at Lu Sanzong's face, which was filled with anger as the meaning in her eyes deepened. Under Lu Sanzong's puzzled gaze, her lips twitched as she ridiculed, "Because of the world group, those few yellow-haired brats in the world group, the world group. Were they the young boys and girls who had defeated them twice in a row? The world mercenary group that even the Jiang family's noble elders were unable to stop. What has it got to do with them?" Lu Sanzong's brows knitted tightly. LVNI sneered, "That mercenary group is Feng family's young Mrs. Mercenary group." After second head had investigated this matter, he followed that mercenary group and also followed that mercenary group and found the direction that Feng family's young miss was heading towards. Lu Sanzong's face darkened bit by bit. No wonder LVNI was so angry. They were the first to encounter the World Mercenary Group. They were also the first to cross hands with the World Mercenary Group. Now they actually let second head beat them to it. How could they not be angry? If second head really followed Feng family's young miss and found the place that Jiang family's aristocrats were looking for, then the position of the second head would definitely surpass theirs. At that time, he, the leader, would probably have to give up his position. Once he abdicated. How could the second head, who always liked to fight with him, let him go so easily? "You pig brain, you only know how to be angry. Other than being angry, what else can you do?" LVNI scolded without giving him any face. Lu Sanzong didn't get angry. Instead, his eyes lit up. "Cousin, do you have any ideas? Since the second-in-command knows to investigate her, do you think I don't?" LVNI sneered. "We still have a trump card in our hands." Lu Sanzong did not expect this at first. After seeing the meaningful smile on LVNI's face, then, as though recalling something, he asked, "You're talking about the man we've just captured? That person is said to be the leader of the World Mercenary Group, and he has a close relationship with Miss Feng." LVNI's eyes flashed with a scheming light. "Say, if the news that he's in our hands spreads to Miss Feng, will she return to our side to save him?" Lu Sanzong's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands. "Why didn't I think of that? But, he thought of something and his smile froze. But, cousin, that person is wanted by the higher-ups, 7th Miss who likes trash. Zoon, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Zoon, please be gentler with your love. His warm and broad chest rose and fell slightly because of his laughter. He bent down and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "The palace of gloomy shadow really knows you well. Yi Qing Luo." She didn't want this kind of understanding. However, the two elders were merely suspicious. As long as the two fakes were not exposed, she was not worried at all. Anyway, it didn't matter if the counterfeit was real or fake. With the bloodbone barbarian king following them, it would definitely become real. These words were really said by an elder of the Jiang clan. Ni's brows were tightly knitted, and her tone was somewhat displeased. The cultivator hurriedly lowered his head. "I don't dare to speak nonsense." "All right, you can leave first." Lvni waved her hand. When the cultivator walked to the door, he spoke in a cold voice, "This matter, you." Chapter 4989. I don't know anything. The cultivator knew that a wise man submits to circumstances. He quickly stood still and expressed his position. Lvni hooked her lips in satisfaction and motioned him to leave. Only the two cousins were left in the room. Lu Sanzong then said, "Cousin, do you think what he said is true? The Miss Feng that the second head of the family is chasing is not the real Miss Feng. I said you have a pig's brain, but you are really a pig." Lvni rolled her eyes and snorted coldly, "You believe what others say." Lu Sanzong's eyes widened, "You mean, he is lying to us?" Lu Sanzong's face darkened instantly. "How bold of you to deceive us." "I have to." "Shut up." Lvni poked his head angrily. "It's a miracle that you can live until now and even sit in this position with this brain. Aunt knows that I am stupid, so she specially asked you to come and help me." Lu Sanzong rubbed his head and leaned towards Lvni in a fawning manner. "Cousin, tell me clearly. What is going on? Find someone to keep an eye on that person just now. Maybe he is the second head of the family's people. He just wants us to relax our vigilance." Lvni's eyes darkened slightly, and a trace of coldness flashed across her slender eyes. "Moreover, even if what he said is true, it doesn't mean that the idle talk of the two elders is true." Lvni took out a letter from her arms. "The second head of the family will investigate, but I can't." She put the letter beside Lu Sanzong and said, "Miss Feng has an extraordinary relationship with the mysterious overlord. Miss Feng can pretend to be the overlord, but can he? Moreover, Miss Feng not only has a personal guard of the former emperor of the God Emperor accompanying and escorting her, but there are also people from the imperial palace, secretly protecting her." She sneered, "Do you think it is not true?" Lu Sanzong didn't expect that this cousin of his had already done so many things without him knowing anything. He stared at the letter and grinned. "Since that's the case, then this news can be sent to second head." Lvni glanced at him. "You are finally enlightened." Lu Sanzong stuffed the letter back into his arms as his gaze landed on his injured arm. "But, before this, that slut who injured us must be found. He mentioned that woman called Mu Yu." Lvni's expression sunk as her eyes blazed with anger. But she still spoke rationally. "Get your priorities. Your position is already unstable. Why are you still thinking of finding an enemy? Spread the news of that person being in our hands to the world group or young Miss Feng's ears. Let's lead Miss Feng to our side and intercept Second Master's path." Lvni narrowed her eyes dangerously. "As for that young couple, the order to kill them has already been issued to the entire God realm. those two won't be able to escape even if they grow wings. Lu Sanzong agreed with his cousin unconditionally. In the dark. LV's analysis was as ferocious as a tiger. In the end, it cleared away the suspicions of the two elders. Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing. Could this be called? Cleverness can be misled by cleverness. Chapter 4990. Suddenly, the token in Yiqing Luo's bosom shook. She fished out the world group's token and Tong Ziqing's cold voice was transmitted into her mind. Found him. Where? Yiqing Luo asked. Tong Ziqing replied, southwest direction, walk straight, the innermost courtyard. She paused for a moment and continued, there are quite a number of dark void hall cultivators guarding outside the courtyard and it's heavily guarded. It's not easy to save him. Yiqing Luo asked, have you gone in? Tong Ziqing replied, there are even more people in the room where he's locked up. If I go in now, I might alert the enemy. Are you certain that the person inside is the person you want to save? The heavily guarded place might not necessarily be Long Yunjian. Tong Ziqing replied confidently, I sensed his presence, it's him. As long as you're certain. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted as her pink lips curled into a mischievous smile. Her crafty eyes glanced towards Dmo Xian. The man gave a helpless and pampering laugh as he raised his palm and rubbed her little head, as long as you're happy. The two of them obviously didn't say anything. But they had an incomparable tacit understanding. Little Jiang Ziyi was dazed from what he saw. He wanted to ask but was afraid that if he moved or spoke, he would be discovered by the people from Dark Void Hole. Following that, he heard the young lady intentionally lowering her voice so that he couldn't hear it clearly, but it was still a clear and melodious voice. Ziqing, now you. Directly go and save him, do you have the confidence? Jiang Ziyi's eyes suddenly widened. Save him. Let Sister Qing save him alone. Wasn't this too dangerous? The token remained silent for a moment, as though it was observing the surrounding terrain. Following that, Tong Ziqing said, I'll try. Not try, but. Do you have the confidence? Yiqing Luo's tone was irresistible, after saving him, hang on till we rush over. Tong Ziqing remained silent for some time before spitting out a word, all right. Then. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she bent over and picked up the little boy on the ground, throwing him into Dmo Xian's arms. Action, begin. Following the young lady's soft tone was heard. That black-haired young lady had already flown out from the darkness. Who's that? LVNI and Lu Sanzong reacted instantly and looked towards the direction where the dark force came from. Then, he saw a young girl with delicate and picturesque features, who seemed like the girl next door, appear out of nowhere. Without any explanation, he took out a shining machete and slashed it at their faces. Bitch, it's you. Lu Sanzong hurriedly dodged to the side and stared at the young girl in disbelief. His face twisted. How did you know about this place? Bang! The exquisite bed was cut into two halves by a single slash of the saber. Lu Sanzong and LVNI quickly separated. It was the middle of the night, and they were in their own territory. The two of them did not even bring their weapons with them. LVNI glanced around and quickly flew toward a nearby desk, attempting to retrieve the sword hanging on the wall behind the desk. A cold light flashed in front of him. The girl swung her machete horizontally. That saber technique was ferocious and disorderly. In any case, it was just a random hack. Forcefully intercepting LVNI's little movements. Since you dare to issue a kill order, then you should be mentally prepared. For me to come knocking on your door. The girl's clear and melodious voice sounded exceptionally cold in the cold night. Her pink lips curled up slightly as the machete in her hand changed unpredictably. The profound ray saber technique merged together, and it was like a huge dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it soared into the sky. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4991. How dare you barge into our turf? Lu Sanzong's face turned green from Yiqing Luo's arrogant actions. He raised his voice and shouted, "Guards! Guards!" Yiqing Luo scoffed as she speedily moved towards Lu Sanzong. The machete in her hand danced as the profound rays burst out. The huge dragon roared and entangled Lu Sanzong in it. "The bounty order has been issued for so long, aren't you anxious to find me?" The machete in Yiqing Luo's hand was already close to Lu Sanzong's neck. Her lips twitched as she gave a low laugh. "Isn't that why I'm here, to fulfill your wish so that you can be happier?" The moment her machete was close to Lu Sanzong's neck, orderly footsteps were heard outside the door. Following that, a group of patrolling guards rushed in. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she faced those guards, as her hand shook slightly. The sharp blade directly slit Lu Sanzong's neck. Scarlet blood stained the blade. "Don't scare me. If you scare me, my hand won't listen to me." Yiqing Luo didn't want to waste any time. She held the hostage in her hands. Her vision looked towards a certain direction. LVNI had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's actions. At the moment she saw her, an ominous premonition arose in her heart. Her woman's intuition made her turn back swiftly. But it was already too late. Behind her, a heavy injury, along with a majestic profound ray, struck her back. LVNI's entire body flew forward. A bam sound was heard. Coincidentally, she fell face down beside Yiqing Luo's feet. The young lady unreservedly raised her leg and stepped on her back. LVNI wanted to struggle, but the intense pain on her back made her unable to even mobilize the profound energy in her body. She turned her head and looked towards the direction where she was attacked earlier. She saw a bamboo-colored figure, carrying a little boy in his hand, casually stepping into her line of sight. The man's handsome face looked innocent and harmless. A pair of eyes as pure as the ocean was covered with frost. "It's that man, not good, not good." Right at this moment, the panicked voice of a profounder resounded from outside. "Leader, the western courtyard has been robbed." West Courtyard. Lu Sanzong's heart trembled. When that profounder charged over, he noticed that the atmosphere here was strange. Then, he saw the domineering appearance of the two leaders being held against their necks by a young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. One of them was holding a knife against their necks, while the other was stepping on them. In that instant, Zhang Xian was stunned. "Go to the west courtyard. Go to the west courtyard." At this time, Lu Sanzong could not care less about the machete on his neck. He was so anxious that his whole face turned red. The people of the west courtyard must not be lost. "Quick! Send someone to stop them." "First Master, what's the rush?" The girl's ghostly voice rang in Lu Sanzong's ears. She slightly bent her eyebrows and gently patted his face with the machete. "I'll take you two cousins there now." After saying that, she kicked LVNI's body. LVNI let out a blood-curdling scream. LVNI soared into the air. Following that, Yiqing Luo clasped her neck and lifted her up. Following that, the peach-colored clothes and black-hair young lady. Under the dark night, a magnificent color flashed past and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, that cold and chilly man who seemed to be strolling in his own back garden followed closely behind the young lady. Everyone, Did they not have any sense of existence? Were all the assassins nowadays so arrogant? 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please be gentler and collect. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 4992. Why are you still in a daze, Chase? One of them reacted and immediately raised his voice to remind them. Then, a large group of people rushed in the direction of the west courtyard. Yiqing Luo, who was using her teleportation technique to head towards the southwest direction, casually threw Lu Sanzong to Dmo Xian. Her plan was simple. Tong Ziqing to save people. She would use the hostage to attract attention. 2 hostages in her hands. The cultivators in the dark void hall would more or less have some scruples. And the bigger the mess she made, the more arrogant she would be. It would be easier for Tong Ziqing to save them. Her aim was only to save people. She didn't intend to destroy their hall now. Anyway, after tomorrow morning, the dark void hall headquarters would collapse by half. By then, she would create another wave of trouble. At this moment, the dark void hall was instantly in an uproar. The originally dark void hall. In a split second, it was brightly lit. Countless footsteps sounded, one after another. The entire dark void hall was in a mess. On one side, their first master and deputy master had been captured. On the other side, the people whom the higher-ups asked them to guard had been kidnapped. They were F*King deliberately targeting the Anshu Hall and stirring up trouble. In an instant, wave after wave of guards and cultivators, all gathered towards the west courtyard. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue and looked down at Lvni, whose face was twisted in pain. Her pink lips were frivolous, delicate and picturesque eyebrows, with a young lady's sweet and soft smile. But what entered Lvni's ears was a bone-chilling, malicious voice. "TSK, I didn't expect, you guys are quite valued, so many people are here to save you." She tilted her head and blinked her charming eyes, vividly displaying the words pure and innocent, "I don't know if they can save you." Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. He jumped up and down, trying to avoid being caught by those Xian cultivators. Lvni was kicked by Dmo Xian. Kicked to the point that her internal organs were ruptured. The pain was heart-wrenching. Now Yiqing Luo was grabbing her by the throat, swinging around. She almost vomited blood and fainted. Another large wave of profound practitioners surged over from the front. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision swept a figure, carrying another person, speedily moving towards her direction. It was Tong Ziqing. The person she was carrying on her shoulder was the blue-robed, pale-faced Long Yunjian, whose eyes were closed. At this moment, Long Yunjian's hair was messy. Even his robes were tattered. Obviously, it wasn't easy being locked up here. Yiqing Luo's vision swiftly swept past Long Yunjian's exposed skin. When he didn't see any particularly serious injuries, he retracted his gaze that was gradually turning cold. As long as they were rescued, it would be fine. She lowered her eyes and looked at Lvni, who was on the verge of death. While Tong Ziqing was rushing over, Lin Fan's expression changed. She said, "Take him away first. Yun and I will stay behind." Tong Ziqing was stunned for a moment. She glanced sideways at the motionless man whose eyes were tightly shut. Clenching his teeth, he carried the man and passed by Yiqing Luo, flying towards the outer walls of the dark void hall headquarters. Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard. Those guards who were chasing after Tong Ziqing suddenly paused. Their gazes all turned towards the direction of the miserable shriek. A young lady in peach robe with jet black hair held a biting cold blade in her hands, unknowingly stuck to Lvni's neck. Fresh blood was flowing down along the blade. That miserable shriek was made by LVNI. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.